Hey guys, Susan had asked me to make a video explaining how I do the star chart because I think that the way that I do it is way easier just for me to picture and for me to like visualize, and it goes super fast, and it doesn't really involve a lot of the memorization and like the rewriting and the rewriting that the phone numbers do. Um, Also, I think that whenever we get to acupuncture treatment of disease, we have to use the star charts for the four Korean needle technique, or 4, 6, something like that. So I went ahead and memorized it like this. I'm also super visual, really hands on, so this was like way easier for me to understand and to like see written out. And then I think that if you are kind of learn that way too, it might be helpful. Also, Robert likes to switch up things on his tests. Like he will switch the location of like spleen and stomach. And if you're doing the phone numbers, it's really easy to mess up like an entire line because he switched it. And instead of knowing that you're supposed to like switch those numbers around, you just kind of like do it by rote memorization. But this way, there's no way to mess it up because by the end, you'll have your sheet with all of your numbers on it, and you'll be able to say, like, okay, this is the heart channel. I'm going to finish the heart channel before I even start writing anything down. That way, you kind of like look at the chart and you say, okay, it doesn't matter where spleen and stomach are because my chart is specifically geared towards just spleen and stomach. So I'm going to show you the way that I do it whenever I am taking a test and like doing my dump sheet, and the kind of like thought process that I go through, which includes not only the Jingwell and the Shoestream and Hussey, but it also includes the low and the she cleft. And then I also have a different way to memorize the other stuff like the back shoe and things like that. So if you want me to talk to you about how I do the back shoe and the front moo, I haven't actually gotten to the front moo yet, so that'll be next. Um, I've been really sick. I'm sorry if you can't hear me. But I'm going to do it really slow on like really large so that you can see it. And then I'll show you like a big picture of what it looks like. I don't do it in the circle the way that Robert did it. I do it through like yin and yang organs, and I do them as a pair. So here's the first thing that I do. Since we have to have all of them on the test, what I do is I start just by drawing my stars, and I draw them in pairs instead of like in the circle. So I'll do lung, large intestine, stomach, spleen, heart, small intestine, all by themselves. Okay, so I'm just gonna do them 4 channels at a time, since that way there will only be 3, and I'll walk you through my process of like memory for those. And then I end up just like doing the chart over and over and over again. I even do this for my point location tests because it's way easier. So it's easy to mess this up because even in the point location handbook that we have, and the yellow thing with the phone numbers, it mixes up spleen and stomach, and like puts a yin organ where a yang organ should be. And this just really helps me um, like piece it out. Like a lot of people say like lung, large intestine, stomach, spleen, but the stomach is the yang organ and the spleen is the yin organ, which is where people keep getting like messed up with these numbers. So the first thing I do is I draw 2 stars for each, or 1 star for each channel. So I have lung, large intestine, and then all of my yin organs. So I draw my 4 stars like this of lung, large intestine, and then on this side, my brain always says stomach, spleen, but I make sure to put my yin organs always on the top. So I'm going to put spleen on the top and then stomach on the bottom. So lung, large intestine, spleen, stomach. That way, whenever I'm filling out that chart, I know, okay, spleen is first here, yada yada. Okay, so I think whenever you're working with the individual channels and their opposites, it's way easier than doing it with that whole like crisscross like puzzle method, because we know that the Jingwells of the lung and the large intestine are generally going to be the opposites, right? One is going to start at the end of the channel and then the other one is going to start at the beginning. So the Jing well of the lung is 11. And generally it's like the first three are really, really close to each other. It's always like right in succession with each other. Before I even start doing that though, I put in the letters LX, which stands for low and she cleft. And the way I remember that is that I always think about like XL, but I do it backwards. Okay, so it's not XL, it's LX. So LX, 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 LX. And I stick it on the chart like this so that I know that these are going to come in here somewhere. There's going to be a low and a she cleft, like in this pattern. Because usually what's left out on the star chart, you can fill it in with the low and the she cleft. So when we start with the lung, the Jing well of the lung is 11. So I'll do 11, 10, 9. And we know that the Shu stream is always the UN source point, so I put my 9 right in the middle. And then the rest of the star would be 8 and 5. Okay, so it would say 11, 10, 9, 8, 5. But if you look at the low and the she cleft points, they are 7 and 6. So the low point is 7, the she cleft point is 6. So in my head, what I do is I say 11, 10, 9, 8 is the next point on the star, and then the low in the she cleft is 7, 6, and then the next point on the star is 5. So I don't know if this is going to flip this around or not, or if it's going to keep being like this. So 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. So I've now, whenever I've finished with this, I know the low point, the low connecting, and the she cleft point of the lung, and I've got all of my stuff, including my source point. Super easy. Most of the low and the she cleft points fit into the stars like this. So it's really, really easy. Next, I circle my Jing well point so that I know that that's where I'm starting from, because that can also be super confusing when you're taking your test and you're nervous. So after I finish that one, I go on to the large intestine. So if I know that lung started with 11, large intestine is going to start with 1. And it's going to start in the Jing well space, so then I'm going to put 1, 2, 3. And remember, your yin source point always has to have a 4. So this one just so happens to go 1, 2, 3, 4 in the middle. And then it goes 5 at the top. So far I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we know that like the hussy points, if you get confused or you blank on the hussy points, those are always at the knees and the elbows. So the hussy point for this one is 11. But what about the low and the she cleft? Okay, so we have the low and the she cleft for this one are 6 and 7. So what I do is I say to myself 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I draw 2 little things right here while I'm practicing to remember low and she, and then that's going to be 6 and 7. Perfect. So see, on this one now I have 1, 2, 3, 4 is my source point, 5, blank, blank, which is 6 and 7, and then 11. Okay, so now you have your lung and your large intestine done. So let's move on to stomach spleen. This is a big one. This always gets everybody tripped up. Okay, so make sure that you put your spleen on the top. Spleen goes on the top. Stomach goes on the bottom. I've made this mistake a million times on tests, and then I go back and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. So and then make sure I circle my Jing well point for my large intestine, which is down here. Okay, because they're always opposites. Super easy to remember those. Okay, so the Jing well point of the spleen is 1, okay? So again, whenever the first 3 points are always like in succession with each other. It's usually 1, 2, 3, and then your yuan source point goes right in the middle. I always stick it in the middle instead of double underlining it, just so that I know. So 1, 2, 3, and then next is going to be 5, 9. But if we look at our low and our she cleft points, they are 4 and 7. So I would usually draw, like, while I am practicing this, I would put 1, 2, 3, and then my low connecting point is 4. So I'll draw like a little thing right here, and then a mark, 4, 5, I'm sorry, not right there. So 3 and then 4 is the low connecting point, and then the next point on the star is 5. So I'll put a 5 right here, and then the next point is 9 over here. So the she cleft has to be a point between 5 and 9, and it happens to just be right in the middle, and it is 7. So I usually draw a little thing right here. So whenever I'm looking at this chart for spleen, I just say 1, 2, 3, 3, 4 goes into my low, 5, 6, 7 goes onto my she, 8, 9. So like, just to remember, I might draw like stars or numbers and lines or like little breaks. So 1, 2, 3, 3 goes in the middle, 4 is my low connecting point, 5, 6 blank, and then 7 is my she cleft point, 8, and then 9 is the point. So, and if you remember, like, where's the hussy point? The hussy point's always at the knee, and spleen 9 is at the knee, or it's at the knee and the elbow. Perfect. Okay. So if spleen started at 1, then that means that stomach is going to start at the end of the channel, which is where our Jingwell point is going to come from. So our Jingwell is going to be at the bottom right of the star. The Jingwell point of the stomach is 45, because that is where it starts. Okay, and like I said, these are usually pretty successive. It usually goes 45, 44, 43. Okay, so we have 45, 44, 43. And then we're going to skip and go to 41 here. So the stomach channel is a little bit different. I think I wrote something wrong. That point is supposed to be... I'm sorry. Stomach channel is 42. So it's even easier. So it is 45, 44, 43, 42, right in the middle. 45, 44, 43, 42, and then 41. And then we all know what the hussy point of the stomach channel is, and that's 36. So this one's really, the stomach channel is super easy if you can remember the Jingwell point. Okay, 45, 44, 43, 42, 41, hussy, 36. The low and the she cleft come in between in this number that we are missing, so it's going to come right here, 41. 40 is going to be your low point. And then in between 40 and 36 is 38. So generally, like, your low and your she clefts like fall on your star. They're just, you just have to remember like exactly where they are, which isn't that hard. So if we have 45, if I circle this as my Jingwell point, 45, 44, 43, 42, 41, 40 is going to be my low, 36 is going to be my hussy, and then 38, which is in between 40 and 36, is going to be my she cleft. So that is super easy. Whenever you have this down in your head, it goes by like super fast. So it goes, now you have lung, large intestine, spleen, and stomach. So now whenever you're filling in your chart, you're not relying on just like the memory of that order of those numbers, but you can actually look at this and say like, okay, the Jingwell is this, and I know it goes this way. Make sure that you're putting these in the right order. Your spleen goes up on top with your yin organs. Your stomach goes on the bottom with your yang organs. So if you liked that, I can keep going. There's only like, it would just be 2 more videos of heart, small intestine, kidney, bladder, and then pericardium, Sanjiao, and liver, gallbladder. So let me know if you like this. I will send a couple more if you want. Okay, bye.